Hi, how's it going? I am. It's nice to meet everyone. I've never done one of these Facebook Live things before, so please bear with me if I seem a little bit uh, like like a rookie. I am Tim Snow with QT2 Systems uh, coaching group. We are based kind of in the Boston area, I guess. Um, I live in Easton, Massachusetts. I have been a triathlete in New England since 1998, and have known Andy and Kathleen for years. Raced with Andy for many years on the Bay State Triathlon team, and they asked me if I would be interested in joining you for a night to talk about kind of what we can do during this time to try to keep our endurance lifestyles as healthy as possible and moving forward. And so I gladly accepted. I know that New England Endurance Events is based primarily on Cape Cod, and I raced for years on Cape Cod at some of my favorite races were the Hyannis Sprints 1 and 2. Spent many times Saturday mornings chasing George Bent down the final stretch of road back to Craigville Beach. Never caught him. Never ever caught George Bent. I'm probably going to die with that on my grave. But it's nice to be here with all of you. So I'm I guess you get questions or people say things. So who am I seeing here? I see uh, Bree. Is it Bree? Bri? I'm just gonna go with Bree. Sam, Amy, how you doing? Trish, how you doing? Trish. Hope everyone's doing well. Um, I am here. I can answer. We do these kinds of different little things. These kind of talking um, hours all the time within QT2 for our athletes, and it's kind of fun. And I'm always here to sit and answer any questions you may have or talk about anything you may want me to talk about that's applicable. I can talk about anything. It may not be accurate at all, but I try to feel pretty good about talking about QT2 related or triathlon. I'm sorry, triathlon related stuff and other endurance events. Um, but I feel like maybe a good starting point is just kind of to think about what are we doing to survive this time. Hold on 1 second. I just need to step away. I have an angry dog that needs. Uh, Apologies. This dog was trapped in the room here. So what can we do to kind of keep our endurance lifestyles moving forward? I'm getting the sense just as I'm watching, um, uh, amongst the athletes who I know and who I work with, and myself, and as I watch people on the Strava, um, I'm seeing a certain angst that exists among triathletes and a desire to get out there and do something. And so, which I think is great for the sport. The only problem is right now we have no way to spend that um, and spend that fitness, say that. So I'm seeing a lot of people doing pretty cool brick workouts and kind of intrinsically motivating to do endurance related stuff. Was it last weekend? The weekend before last, we held something called the virtual weekend marathon challenge for because when Boston got postponed, um, we we wanted to do something for our athletes who were running Boston, so we created this the best we could, a marathon over the course of a weekend. So on Friday, people that we had these little formulas. We're kind of math geeks, and we could figure out what one would be expected to run for a marathon. And so we figured that out, and then we said, okay, over the course of the weekend, you have to try and beat that time by as much as possible. And so on Friday, everybody ran a 5K. On Saturday, everybody ran an AM and a PM 5 miler. and then on Sunday everybody ran a 13.1 miler, adding up to a marathon. And the goal was to beat their marathon time, their expected marathon time, by as much as possible. It was a fun event, and it was I guess a focus on doing the best we could with what we had, and I think that's some of the message that we have to think of now during this time is what can we do? There's a lot of people telling us what all the things we can't do. What can we do? Because I'm sure, and this will change, although today it's in the high 30s and raining. It's a nasty day. But I'm sure people are getting really sick of these swim cords and really want to get into doing more of the things that they are accustomed to doing in their triathlon lives. Get back to the pool and get back to some sense of normalcy. So I'm here to answer any questions you may have, or I can talk about anything any topics that may interest you. I think that somebody had sent in a question earlier about what a realistic timetable might be for 70.3 if you have yet to really get into the training. But right now, just doing 3 to 4 hours per week, easy bike and run right now. So you're trying to get a sense as to how long one might need to really get back into 70.3 type shape. That's an interesting question because honestly, and I hope that we can start to think about the possibility. I try to be an optimist as best I can. The possibility of racing in the late summer. As a real possibility, not a certainty, but a real possibility. And if that could be the case, well, it's almost May. It doesn't look or feel like it, but it almost is. And if it's the case that we may be able to race in the late summer, well, we might want to consider getting to work on that. So it's a really good question about how long might one need. I would say somewhere in the ballpark of probably 12 to 16 weeks to kind of get up to speed. Of course, it all depends what you've been doing, right? And so at the end of the day, the most important thing you can do is be consistent. Consistency is king. Any day of the week and twice on Sunday, just be consistent. Be consistent. Keep as close to your fitness lifestyle. I'm not saying your fitness level, but your fitness lifestyle as humanly possible. And it sounds like this person who asked that question is doing a decent job with that. Right now, they're kind of hanging out at 3 to 4 hours per week. They're staying in touch with their lifestyle. It's not as if, if a race broke out tomorrow, they'd have to go and find where their running shoes might be. They know where all their stuff is, and that is a pretty decent place to be in order to resume, to get back into the flow of regular type training / preparation for, I guess, to get back into the flow of taking things a little more seriously or focusing on a certain priority, especially right now where there isn't necessarily an endurance event to focus on. And so I would probably say in the 12 to 16 week range, probably the more important the event might be to you, closer to 16. If you could squeeze 20, that'd be great. But closer to 16. And the less important, maybe closer to 12. I didn't even see. I'm sorry. I was looking over at the little chat box over here, and I didn't realize that it scrolled down. My apologies. So, yes, I will. I hope I exhausted that question, but if I did not, please let me know. I'm happy to revisit it. Let's see. Eric Wheeler, Sean Dean. Sam, is it possible to accelerate the swim training when the pool's open? If I went there 4 to 5 days a week for a month or two, would that approximate a couple times a week all winter? Huh. Huh. I gotta think about that. Um, well, I would maybe recommend the note. It wouldn't not. Uh, I would argue that if you were to go on a more frequent basis, I'm not going to give you any kind of definitive constants, but if you were to go on a more frequent basis and keep the workouts shorter, so shorter but more frequent, you would get a pretty quick bang for the buck. You would resume to where you had been rather quickly. I think you're also going to be in a pretty decent spot because the weather will change, um, and we'll be able to be in the open waters as well. And I know you guys have some good options down the Cape. Maybe not in the ocean these days down there, but some good lakes and ponds, probably closer to ponds, that where there's some decent open water swimming. And so I would recommend, yeah, maybe it doesn't have to go as high as 4 to 5 because you don't want to you don't want to hate it. I yeah, but maybe 3 to 4 times a week might really do the job pretty quickly. Might bring you back a lot more quickly than you would have originally thought. And because so much of swimming is feel for the water, your relationship with the water. We are endurance events. We are not endurance events. We are endurance athletes. We our speed in the water is almost never a function of our fitness. Okay, it is a function of our relationship with the water, and what we do with the water, how we behave in the water. We have more than enough aerobic capacity to be amazing swimmers. We just we just have to have better relationships with the water, and so I would argue that getting into the water on a more frequent basis is probably going to improve that relationship a whole lot. And so I would say yes, maybe not 4 to 5 because that may be coming out a little too hot. And I understand that everybody. It's amazing how the athletes, right, who all of a sudden miss swimming, but during the year, before this, when the pools were available all the time, you couldn't drag anyone to a pool until they were 6 weeks out from a race. Now nobody can swim and everybody misses it. So my point being is, come back at maybe a higher frequency than you had had before, but don't overdo it. Okay, because that, like I said before about something else, consistency is king. Maybe it becomes a case that if you come back at 3 to 4 days a week, what used to be through the winter twice a week, maybe next winter becomes 3 days a week. And that increased frequency, not necessarily volume, but that increased frequency is going to help your relationship with the water, which will make you a faster, better swimmer. I hope I answered the question. Oh boy. Okay, let's see. Sam. Amy, question. If your races are postponed and they all fall into a 2 to 3 month block, yeah, would you suggest just going out and having fun racing all of them, or perhaps eating the money for 1 or 2 of them and focusing on just a couple of those races? I would recommend seeing what comes. It's funny because I think all the races are going to be for fighting for the fall, and it's a really interesting scenario. And as I think about a race like Kona, right, which is the same weekend every year in October, but in theory, because of the weather situation there, could literally be held on any given day of the year. Like maybe they should just move a race like Kona to January, and give some time to qualify for the damn thing. Sorry, excuse my language. But because all these other races are going to be needing all these weekends, and so I think what I would do, Amy, is just take it day by day, one day at a time. Let's see what comes. you may be in a position where you coming out of this, you just need to go race. Then go race, because you if you burn yourself out, you're just burning yourself out into winter, right? It's going to be a different animal than racing so much in the spring, early summer, that you burn yourself out and kind of lose the rest of your season. That's a very different animal than burning yourself out into November. And well, what are you going to do in November, December anyway, right? So if the spirit moves you to race, I would race, and if it doesn't, I wouldn't. But I would take that one race at a time. But err on the side of racing. If yeah, I would err on the side of racing. That's me. Hope that helps. Karen, my swim band snapped, so I'm now really behind. Supposed to get new bands tomorrow, but I'm 3 weeks with no swim bands. How to catch up? Don't just get your swim bands, and don't try to play catch up. Just let it be. Just let it be. Remember, kind of like what I had just said a couple minutes back. So much of the swimming is a function of your relationship with the water, how you position yourself in the water. Okay, if you are swimming through the water where your body is going through the water like this, it doesn't really matter how strong you are. Okay, due to swim bands. So I would not try to catch up. Don't burn yourself out on swim bands. The open water is coming. You'll be in it. Once we are swimming in the open water for a month, we will have forgotten that we haven't been swimming, and you will have forgotten that your swim band snapped. And so I would be this. I think the angst, I used the word angst earlier. The angst that we are feeling around swimming is probably going to be soon alleviated, and which is really cool, because we're going to start to have those options. I actually feel really bad for people who live in areas where you cannot access open water. We have a limited window with which we can access open water here in New England, but when we can access open water, we have really good options, and that's pretty cool. There are other parts of the country that have no access to open water, or have even smaller windows than we do, particularly around not being allowed to utilize open waters. And so once the weather turns, our only limiter right now is the weather. And once we get that, and I bet you we'll be in the open water in 3 weeks. I'm going to throw that out there. 3 weeks. We'll see what happens in reality. But once you've been swimming 3-4 weeks in the open water, you'll have forgotten that you swim. You'll forget that you even had a swim band to snap. Summer train shocks aren't due in until later. Oh, good for them. It blows my mind that I would at any point feel safer swimming in the ocean off of Florida than I would off of Cape Cod. Blows my mind. Okay, Kathy. So we could. Whoa, sorry. Sorry about that. I leaned my chair and I almost fell. That would have been classic. I apologize. So we could skip dry land exercises if we did 4 to 5 days per week of swimming. Yeah. Okay. So the coach in me does not want to tell you to not do dry lands. Okay. Dry lands. I think the power of these things are being rediscovered because of coronavirus. I have been a triathlete for 22 years, and before coronavirus, touched these probably 3 times in my life. Okay, because I'm not doing that, but now I have to, and I rediscovered that there is a value to them. They are not as good as swimming, but they're a great supplement to swimming. And so I do not want to tell you to not do them once you start swimming again. But if I'm an athlete and I have an option towards swimming or dryland drills, I'm getting in the water for sure. But these are also the kinds of things that I would say, just from a standpoint, I've spent at times during the year doing a lot of travel and staying in hotel rooms or places where pools weren't easily accessible, and just opting not to swim because I didn't really have access to it. I've rediscovered during this time that these are an easy pack right into the bag, where while they may not perfectly replace a swim, they are going to do a good job of getting me close enough. They're going to get me close enough, and I'm going to bring them with me when I travel, and that's a pretty cool thing to come out of this, is the rediscovery of a good tool like that. So I'm just kind of talking around the question there, Kathleen, where I would say that I wouldn't say to that you shouldn't do them, but they're a good supplement and they should be used as such, where and when appropriate. How's that for a political answer? Bree, for training, is it always better to bike and then run, since that is the race order, or are there benefits to running first and biking second? Very good question. So, sure, yes. So, it is not always better to bike and then run. That's a very, not always better. There are times when, so it depends what you're trying to accomplish, right? So if I'm going to try and do an important key run, okay, where the run is the focus of the day, it is probably better for me to do that run first, okay, before I bike, because I do not want to, I'm trying to push the run. I do not want to put myself in a position to have the run hindered in any way. That's the thing I'm trying to work on that day. And so in that case, I would run first. Okay. Now, it's also a really good idea often to to do like recovery rides after a run. So have a good run and then use a recovery ride to kind of spin the sludge out of your legs after that run. That's a really good idea. When other times, it's a really good idea to run off the bike, because yes, that's what we do. So if you are going to do a key bike, then you want to get a good little brick run off of it, because that's good practice for what it feels like to actually race, to run on tired legs, to run on bricked legs, right? That's a good opportunity for that. Another time where I would absolutely bike first is if you're going to do a bike that is trying to push your bike limiter. So if you're trying to do a key bike workout, where the bike is the focus of the day, and this is probably this is an important one. You do not want to do a key bike after a run. Running will typically so bike wattage. Bike power, okay, measured by wattage, is really a function of how big a gear you can push and how quickly you can push it, okay? So how strong you are and how fit you are. Those two things together create bike wattage. And if you go and run first and earlier, like before a key bike that you're trying to push, you're basically going to make it so your legs are going. You're not going to change the aerobic capacity of your legs, but you are going to change how big a gear they're going to be able to push that functionality, and which is going to limit the bike. Okay, and so in that case, where you're trying to push the bike, then I wouldn't. When you're trying to push a key bike ride, no, I would avoid running. So I tried to cover a few of the different possibilities in there, or the permutations that could exist within biking and running, and when it's appropriate and when not. But to answer your question, is it always better to bike and then run? No, and those are the different reasons why. Wait, where are we meeting here? Wait, hold on, Eric. Wheeler. Oh, I don't know where people meet. I'm gonna try tomorrow. Okay. And the bands were sold out on there. Yeah, so it's funny. Okay, so here's an interesting thing. I believe one of our athletes, he's more creative than I, got the band portion of bands like these at Walmart for cheap. Okay, and then took an old pair of swim paddles, which I don't have on me, but swim paddles, drilled a hole in them, a couple holes in them, and then tied the band through and created his own swim cords. Pretty ingenious, considering that these, like almost all athletic equipment, is hard to come by right now. So that's a possibility. Let's see. TRX. Yes, TRX is an excellent. That TRX, the nylon strapping system is the sorest I've ever been in my life after a strength workout was after a TRX workout, which is ridiculous, but so true. The range of motion that a TRX system allows is unbelievable. We like to think of TRX as being a good core type or strength maintenance type of thing. It's not the kind of thing where you're necessarily going to put on lean muscle mass. To put on lean muscle mass, you really kind of need to push weights around. So it doesn't completely erase formal weight room strength training, but it's a really good in season and informal weight training. Pushing weights around is not the kind of thing that you necessarily want to do in season, like in the throes of race season. But TRX is an excellent addition to once you are done with the formal weight training, throw in TRX. It's excellent lean muscle mass maintenance and range of motion maintenance, which is oftentimes one of the bigger issues for endurance athletes. So I highly recommend TRX systems. I despise them, but I highly recommend them. Scott, I have an above ground pool I hope to open soon. If the weather warms up, do you recommend a swim bungee type cable to swim in place? I know of some people doing that. Yes, I do. I absolutely do recommend that. So one person who I know is doing it, and this is a little different take on it and maybe a little more comfortable. My thinking on the swim bungee, if I just stand up, I can imagine that having the bungee around the waist would really be quite annoying trying to swim. So what I'm seeing one person do is taking a set of fins, okay, and drilling. I don't know if they're drilling. I don't know if you need to drill fins, but they have put a hole in the fins and attached the tether to the fins, and then swimming with their feet in the fins. So the bungee is not around their waist; it is attached to their feet, which is a more natural position for swimming, and that's actually an excellent idea. So, Eric is going. Oh, did I miss something? Eric is going swimming in the first week of May. Oh my God, I'd love to. Where do you go, Eric? I mean, I checked the pond that I swim in last week, and it was 52. 52. It's getting there. Like 52, it ain't gonna happen, right? But 62 could, and so we're getting close. Eric, Seamus, I'm sorry. With racing postponed so far out, should I go back to heavier lifting, muscle mass addition? Well, That depends. That depends if that's the kind of thing that tends to be a limiter for you. If you are somebody, it also depends upon your age. Um, and so if you are somebody, Seamus, who struggles to maintain lean muscle mass, um, I would say like somebody like a runner, somebody from a running background. Yes, I would probably get back in the gym. If you are somebody who's over 40, I would probably start to think about getting back into the gym, and focusing on those kinds of things. Very rarely can you do wrong by building lean muscle mass. You don't need lean muscle mass really up here, but in the the lower body and in the core area. It's the kind of thing that can really go a long way in helping to keep you injury free. And so yeah, I would. So I guess it depends. If you are somebody who has always carried a lot of lean muscle mass and has no trouble putting lean muscle mass on when in the gym, then maybe it's not. You don't need to do that. So it really, really depends. Jenkins Pond. Well, it's a long way. Cool. Any other questions? Anything else that may be on anyone's mind? Oh. Do you have your athletes run, swim, run? And if so, do you have a favorite swim, run shoe? Oh, so the Attilo. Yeah. If I'm being sorry, excuse me. If I'm being honest, I am not yet well versed enough in the needs around an Attilo. I don't know the answer to that. I have had a friend of mine do a couple of them, and I don't know what he did with regards to necessarily like the best setup in terms of uh, the swim run shoe. That's an interesting take um, as you get into that. I can imagine, and I don't. This is just me thinking out loud. So do not take this with any kind of seriousness. But yeah, like in a past life, I had toyed with the Vibram Five Fingers, and I would actually toy with trying to do the whole thing in those. I have no idea if that would be successful or not. It would probably fail miserably. But yeah, I don't. I'm sorry, I don't. I can't answer that question. I just don't know. Running with a face mask. Yeah. Um, I will do what the authorities tell me to do. If I'm going to trust in the leaders of the state, if the leaders of the state, I say state, if the leaders of the state tell me that I should run in a face mask, then I will. Until they do, I won't. I know out in Colorado that there are certain areas where if you do not run in a face mask, you are being kind of socially ridiculed in a way. So I think there's a little bit of peer pressure going on in that direction there. I have not. No, I don't run in areas that are so densely populated run wise where I feel it a necessity. I'll wear one to the grocery store, um, but primarily my runs are solo activities, and I'm not encountering a lot of people. So no, as of right now. But if for example, if you guys were to be running on the canal on a day like yesterday, was yesterday nice? I think yesterday was nice. Or Saturday. I don't remember. The last nice day we had, if you happen to be running on the canal, and there were a ton of people out, then maybe it's appropriate. But maybe on a normal run where you might see, 4 people along the way, spread out across X number of miles, I don't think I would worry about that. Yeah, okay. So that's a good idea. I've been going around, so Linda's been wearing a buff that she can pull up when she goes by someone. And Linda's a nurse, so right? Yeah, Linda's a nurse. I usually just kind of pull around so that I don't we don't cross auras. Yeah. What else? Anything else? Audrey, how you doing, Audrey? It's good to see you. Huh. Oh, look at this. I can This is a good question. Feeling like doing longer base type stuff, so not to peak too soon. Oh, hold on. Let me just make sure I didn't miss Amos. Hold on. I'm not gonna. Yeah. So no, Seamus. We hit. So Seamus. We hit the weightlifting one on Seamus. I just want to make sure we got that. I didn't miss anything else by Seamus. If I did, Seamus, please repost. This is so longer base type stuff, so not to peak too soon. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I feel this is like one of those periods of time when I call it kind of like you want to be involved in your endurance lifestyle, but you don't want to be too involved because you don't know where or when you're going to be able to spend it. So, Seamus, can you ask that second? Can you just retype that second question? I missed it. I'm sorry, I just didn't see it. So, okay, hold on. I'll get back to you, Seamus. You want to be involved in your lifestyle, but endurance lifestyle. But you don't want to be too involved in your endurance lifestyle, so as to kind of be totally peaked out and nothing to do with it. So I would probably take typical training volume and bring it down a bit. Don't bring it way down, but bring it down a bit so that when we get a sense, and I have a feeling that when we're going to be able to race, we're probably going to have 6 weeks of notice, which is ample time to ramp back up. So I would probably bring things down in terms of training stress and probably focus more on the base type stuff for sure, lower intensity, just kind of building the base so that when we start to get a general sense of where things are heading, race-wise and season-wise, you can then start to insert that stress. But the last thing you want to do is nothing. All right, and the second to last thing you want to do is be completely peaked out and with nothing to do with it. So I think the answer to that is yes. It's bring it down, but not so far down. You want to have an easy re-entry. I call it circling the airport, so that when you kind of get to where you're going, but you're there too soon. So they tell you got to take a couple laps, and you'll be ready to go. And then when you're ready to land, when they're ready for you to land, they say bring it in, and you're able to bring it in. And that's kind of, if we bring our training down, we'll be ready to ramp it right back up, so that when the races are ready, we'll be ready. It's not a perfect metaphor, but okay. Let's see. Oh, hold on, Seamus. How about a training break and doing some unstructured exercise? For me, that's trail runs and mountain biking on my single speed. Concerns about too much high intensity and peaking too soon. Okay, so if you're asking the question, then it is coronavirus or no coronavirus. If you're asking that question, then it is a definite possibility that maybe it's appropriate to do some unstructured exercise. One unstructured exercise should probably be part of any season, or any stretch of time. And now is a really good time to, if you're feeling like the training is getting to you, if now, then forecast that out, a couple of months. It's really going to be wearing on you in a while. So maybe it's time for a break. So under the mindset of like, eat before you're hungry, drink before you're thirsty, take a break before you have to. Okay. So maybe if you're feeling potentially like it could be a thing for you, then maybe go into some unstructured stuff. The unstructured stuff is going to be the kind of stuff that you're going to really enjoy doing. And also the unstructured nature of it is going to kind of be like, when you feel like doing it, when you want to do it, you'll do it. And when you don't want to do it, you won't feel guilty necessarily about not doing it. And it will put you in a position to be able to want to get back to training, such that you'll start to think about formal training as something you get to do and not something that you have to do. Anytime that formal training becomes something that you feel like you have to do, that's okay. And when you have a goal race in mind, I have to go out for my long ride on Saturday. The goal race is the thing that pulls you out the door to go on that long ride. But when you don't have that goal race right now, and you're encountering something that you feel like you have to do, and the have to is greater than the wanna, then maybe you need to shift that equation a little bit and focus on a little more something that is unstructured. And I don't think trail runs are ever the wrong answer. And also mountain biking, especially single speed, where that's such a strength oriented thing, that's oftentimes a really good answer. Even in season, that's fine. And concerns about too much high intensity and peaking too soon. Yeah. Then that goes back to Trish's question about base work. Like, I would probably err on the side of bringing things down a notch in your training in terms of intensity, just because this kind of, you want to be able to, we're going to have to extend out our seasons maybe a little longer than we had originally thought. And so now would be a good time to bring down the intensity so that we can extend out the season a little longer. I hold my breath and run wide when I'm sucking wind for a minute after. Oh, it's a good way to get a little hypoxic. Do we know what we're trying to peak for? No, we don't, Linda. I guess what we're trying to peak for is like September, right? That's what we're looking for right now, around that time. Maybe late August, but probably September. Seamus, how about taking? I'll get that one. And the unexpected. Seamus wants to go get his K1. It's like, who took him? That's the question. I don't think I've ever had a K1. Maybe a couple times. Transferred over to long distance running from triathlon because all my races canceled. Yeah. Experiencing lower back pain after longer runs, 10 plus miles. Suggestions? Hamstrings. Your hamstrings. I would check out the hamstrings, make sure that they're not overly tight. I would have a couple follow-up questions for you, like how long have you been running? How quickly did you ramp up the running mileage? How old are your running shoes? Another thing is just be really, really careful with the intensity of your running. Be really careful with that. Running is just one of those things that is one of the more, and I'm going to use this word loosely, one of the more dangerous things that we do. And by dangerous, I mean like it's hard on the body. So it's oftentimes where the injuries come from. And in that respect, we also tend to run left to our own devices without a good disciplined metric to live by. We will tend to run about ballpark 15 to 25 seconds per mile too fast. Okay. And it feels good. It's kind of the pace that feels good and feels right and it's just a little wrong. And those little bit of wrong after wrong after wrong over the course of time on any single run is not a big deal. Over the course of time, accumulate into things that nag and that kind of thing. So I would also just keep an eye on how fast you're running, and I guess I don't want to use the word fast, but how hard you're running, and uh, accepting the likelihood that if you were like me and human, and you probably have a tendency, and even though we don't like to admit it, that what feels good running is probably a little faster than it should be, and that adds up over time. I hope that helps. That may not be the answer you want to hear, but no runner wants to hear that answer. Preparing the land when needed. Very good. Excuse me, gotta hydrate. I've been killing the ice cream sandwiches since the coronavirus hit. It's funny. I live next to I'm sure Benny know Brian Hughes, and around the start of the coronavirus, he came over and he brought me an ice cream sandwich. And since then, I've had about 3 or 4 a night, and it's become a problem. And so that was probably, I don't know how long we've been in this thing. That was probably 6 weeks ago, and I decided today that enough's enough. That I need to no mas. Okay, doing Boston September. How can I sprinkle in biking without doing too much? You just sprinkle. Just biking is an excellent. Thank you. Yeah. Biking is an excellent supplement to running. In fact, if I have my druthers about me, and I were to have an athlete training for Boston who is a runner, then I would love to have them biking. If I have a triathlete who is training for Boston, then I will train them like a triathlete and go kind of all in with the cycling. Cycling is an excellent. You think so? I don't know if you're a triathlete or a runner, and it's a big difference. So if you're a runner, then I would supplement it with some cycling. If you're a triathlete, I would train for Boston as a triathlete, because the bang for the buck that you get out of cycling, you increase your volume, just your aerobic volume, fourfold, right? And the biking pays off into the running. Running doesn't really pay off into biking, but biking greatly pays off into running. So I would probably train as a triathlete if you're a triathlete. So and so there's that qualifier. Newbie triathlete. Okay. Then I would probably I would behave more like a. I don't know the answer to that question. I have to think about that. I don't know. I have to really think about that. You're an experienced runner, Mary. Okay, so Mary, if you're an experienced runner, then I would. Okay, thank you, Randy. That helps, because if you're an experienced runner, then I would maybe explore the triathlon world, and give up a little bit of your running and explore some more triathlon, not for the sake of triathlon, but for the sake of, you have probably the biking is going to provide lower hanging beneficial fruit to grab, okay, because you haven't done it before. Whereas more running, or running at the same, you've kind of gotten what you're going to get out of that. And so introducing this new thing, cycling, would really probably kind of excel your running forward, because it's a new thing, it's a new stimulus. So I would recommend that. That helped. Thank you. I hope that answered. Let's see. Carb loading, admitting is first step. Yes, that's true. Need nice intervention. Yes, I do. I gave it to myself though. I gave myself that intervention. Can you train for 70.3 in Boston at the same time? I highly recommend it. I absolutely. I think that a 70.3 training in Boston training are pretty pretty damn near perfect. I would say. Yeah, you have to. I would almost train for Boston as a 70.3 athlete, maybe with a little more focus on some of the running. You know, so maybe instead of a typical 5-to-1 volume ratio between biking and running, I might go 4-to-1 because you're doing Boston, and so just to make it a little more run heavy than bike heavy. But I would probably train as a triathlete with a 4-to-1 type of bike to run volume ratio, and have that be it. That be the thing. That's a perfect setup. Thank you. Hamstrings are tight and trying to get my shoes, but store is only open for curbside. Eating chocolates by the bag. It's okay. Running chubby, probably hurting my back. Yeah, look into the shoes. Yeah, definitely look into the shoes. It sounds like that could be a thing. If they have some wear and tear on them, if they've been around for a while. Okay, Amy, I have Maine 70.3 and Boston 2 weeks later. Can I train for both? Well, yep. The answer is yes. I would just train for Maine 70.3, like I had just said, and you'll be good to go for Boston. Those long rides that you'll do for the 70.3 are excellent for Boston training. Believe it or not. What else? I'm happy to answer anything else you may have. Hello, Sue. How you doing? Sue was on, so Amy sent me the link for the Facebook Live a couple hours ago, and thankfully, thank you, Amy, because I had never done a Facebook Live before, so I went on and tested it, and of course, when I just did my little test and was staring at the screen, people just joined. So and Sue was one of them, and Sue confirmed to me that she could hear me as she helped me with my test. So thank you for the sound check. Kathleen, thank you. Well, if nobody has any other questions, I guess we can wrap things up. Oh, here we go. Eric, 3-day Savage Man stage race type thing, 4 days after Boston. Oh, good. That's gonna be rough. That's gonna be a rough go. You talking about the Savage Man that's down in West Virginia, like the Savage Man? That sounds awful. Yeah, that's gonna be tough, Eric. You'll get through it, but enjoy Boston and then see how it goes. Okay. Oh, got a couple. Now that Ironman Tremblant is canceled, postponed, what do you anticipate doing? Defer until next year, and what will we do without El Diablo Bears? El Diablo Bears. I feel like this is a setup. I've actually put in when Quebec said that they weren't going to have races anything through the end of August. I put in for Ironman Florida to take my entry and put it into Ironman Florida in November. Of course, I haven't heard back yet, but that was what I was going to do. So we'll see. That's my plan. That was a definite setup, Thomas. Maryland with the stupid steeple. I didn't even know that. Yeah, okay. So that's Savage Man. Yeah, Eric. Yeah, that's gonna be rough. It's gonna be a tough weekend. You got a tough 7 days. Doable, but it'll be hard. All right. Well, thank you guys. Really appreciate having been asked to join you on this. It's been fun, and I guess I'm just gonna hit the end live video. But be well, and hopefully we'll see you at some races at some point. So have a great night.